Hey there, my name's Adam, and as you can see, I'm wearing a hat because it's cold here in Colorado. Welcome to my renovation on Iris Street. This is the 105th week, and I'm actually not doing any work on the house this week because my good friend Michael and I are taking a trip down to Florida. We're gonna check out NASA, so the Kennedy Space Center, and then go on a cruise. So let's get out of this cold state for a little bit and go check out Florida. Mike and I wanted to see how much money we could save on this trip, so the cheapest flight left at midnight, which would get us to Florida by 5 a.m. On Saturday, Mike and I had an entire day to kill, so we went down to Lake Tehopaclaga and checked out Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures. The whole point of having a buffer day was important because on cruises, you never know if you're going to get delayed and you don't want to miss your cruise, so this ended up being the perfect filler activity, just heading out on this lake, which is one of Florida's top 5 largest lakes. It was great fun. I couldn't believe how fast these things went. They just absolutely blasted along, but they know their lake and what's underneath, and we saw a lot of cool wildlife and had a good time. Since we had time to kill, we also checked out their butterfly pavilion. Mike loves feeding animals, and luckily, they let you feed these alligators. You could buy a bag of feed for $5. It stank terribly, but Mike loved this, and it was pretty cool to watch. We really got a lot out of this Saturday. In the evening, we drove just across the peninsula to the east to check out a beach called Cocoa Beach. After goofing off, having fun, taking a few photos and videos, the sun was starting to set, so we decided to head back home and get a good night's rest for NASA tomorrow. I had always heard really good things about the tour at Kennedy Space Center, so since Mike and I were in the area and had one more day to kill, we went out there and spent a full day from 9 to 5.
Arrived.
Oh yeah, you can see the big, huge NASA building.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. The first thing you see when you walk into KSC is this awesome rocket garden. They have rockets going back to the very beginning of NASA, and even some interesting rockets most people wouldn't know about, like the Saturn 1B. Everything at KSC is free once you get in. The admission is about $75 per adult, which was kind of expensive, but once we were in the door, the tours, the shuttle rides around the grounds, and everything else was free, so it ended up being a pretty good value. After checking out the rocket garden, we got on a shuttle to tour the old Apollo launch complex. Along the way, of course, you see the vehicle assembly building, which, fun fact, has the world's largest operating doors. And they just tour around. You get to see a lot of the launch site equipment. Of course, we got to see the crawler launcher, which is an absolutely huge vehicle. The video here probably really doesn't do it justice. The Apollo part of this tour is really well done. They've actually recreated one of the firing rooms that would have been used in the Apollo 11 launch, down to exact replicas of all the consoles, the clocks and dials and gauges, and all of this played back in real time, giving us a preview of what the launch control room would have looked like on the day Apollo 11 was launched. After you see a simulation of the launch in the firing room, you get dumped out some doors, and bam, there is one of these Saturn V's. And again, this video just doesn't do the scale justice. These things are huge. And after seeing movies and watching documentaries and reading books about these rockets all through my life, it was just so freaking cool to see one of these things up close. I just kind of stood and looked at the thing and took it in for a good 15, 20, 30 minutes, I don't even know. But this is a big rocket, and for really all of time, it's still the biggest rocket. Up until recently, we'll see the new space launch system later on in this video, and something we won't see is SpaceX's new Starship rocket. So both of those have more launch capability than the Saturn V, but for good 50, 60 years, you're looking at the biggest rocket humans have ever made. Outside of the Saturn V launch complex, you can see the vehicle assembly building from some grandstands that they have out here so that visitors can actually watch launches. And you can see right there, there's launch pad 39A, where Apollo launched from, but also that SpaceX is now launching from. On the way back, I had a little bit better view of the VAB, so here you go. Most people say if you tour KSC, you're going to need 2 full days to do it, and I believe it. Mike and I only had 1 day, so we tried to see as much as we could. This is the Space Shuttle Atlantis Museum, and it's a tribute to the entire space shuttle. So Columbia, Discovery, Explorer, Challenger, all these 6 shuttles. And so they only had Atlantis on display, but you know these things are big, but they're absolutely huge. They actually had a full-size replica of Hubble, and there's Mike and I standing next to it. It's just, you know these things are big, but man, seeing it up close and in person, I mean, you could fit a school bus inside that space shuttle cargo bay. It's absolutely massive, and they have it dangled at an angle between 3 gigantic stories, so you can see the underside of it, all its heat tiles. And again, What an amazing part of American space history. So cool to see. So we're walking up a gangway that takes us to a shuttle launch simulator. And that was a ton of fun too. Towards the end of the day, we head to a newer building that's showcasing some of NASA and NASA's partners' new rockets. There's that SLS, Space Launch System, that I was talking about. Kennedy Space Center closes down at 5 p.m., so after seeing as much as we possibly could, we headed back to our hotel so we could get a good night's rest before boarding the cruise tomorrow. Well, here we are. On Monday, which happens to be Halloween, Mike and I get to board our cruise ship. This is the Independence of the Seas, which was launched in September of 2007. This is a 15-deck vessel that cruises at an average speed of 21 knots. It is not the oldest, nor is it the newest ship out there cruising. It was just kind of a bog standard, really good first cruise. And for being as old as it is, 15 years, it's still in great shape. And it's still a massive boat. 15 decks took us days and days to tour. So you can see as we're heading out of port, you can see Kennedy Space Center there in the background. And in fact, tomorrow on Tuesday, SpaceX will be launching a Falcon Heavy rocket, which is 3 Falcon 9s side by side. We tried to catch that from sea, but we couldn't see the launch. But anyways, here we are just kind of exploring the ship. This is one of the upper restaurants called the Windjammer. And the first day, we just walked around, enjoyed watching the ocean. I think Mike really liked watching the ocean. I did too, so watched the sunset go down and just watched the ocean from, this is deck 4, which is a very not at all crowded deck that people just really don't use. And we had a good time hanging out there for a lot of this cruise. And at nighttime, again, nobody out here on deck 5. This is actually the helipad, but great place to do some stargazing and watch the moon before turning it in. On Tuesday, Mike and I started the day by hitting up the fitness center just to, work off some of that good cruise food we'd been eating. And also, I was just curious, how good is a gym on a cruise ship? And turns out it's even better than my gym at home, which isn't that nice of a gym. But yeah, this place had all the machines you would want for doing things like squat and deadlift. You can see they've got the bar versions of machines, which makes sense because you're at sea. If the water's got really rough, you don't want big heavy weights kind of toppling over and hurting people or, getting loose in the ship. But anyways, I was able to do all my normal workouts on this ship, and yeah, even had some cable machines I don't have at home, so this was a great way to start our Tuesday. Well, we were pretty hungry after the fitness center, and I didn't take many videos. This might be the only one, but I did want to showcase, this is the grand dining room. It's 3 stories tall. So based on our ticket, we were always on deck 3, but you can see it goes up to 4 and 5. Absolutely massive. They can feed literally thousands of people here every day, and they do. So we got a good lunch in, and after that, we went up to deck 12 to just hang out by the pool and just take in the clouds. It's really pretty to watch clouds on a cruise ship because you're just kind of cruising along at 20 knots. And I was listening to my audiobook and just hanging out, and Mike was doing the same thing. He had his iPad, and it's kind of fun to just hang out here. As you can see, hanging out by the water quickly became one of our favorite activities. It's peaceful, and there's not many people down here on decks 4 and 5, so Mike and I, we spent a lot of time just kind of watching the ocean and hanging out down here. There's not many people, and it's really peaceful. The rest of our trip will be in next week's video, but for now, that's the end of week 105. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you down in the Bahamas.